because healthcare is fucking important.
We're also in, we're seeing with this administration where they're just putting whoever agrees with them in these positions. At least someone's not making a lampshade out of my body, Positives.
That
Looking for the positives. What's up, Doom Scroll Club fam? If you are like us and have been dreading this last week or 2 weeks since we did miss a week, and that's my fault, we are here to give you the latest update. Cody, how are you doing today?
Oh, just perfectly splendid. Oh, I feel like that anytime someone asks that question, you just know it's like a lie, but you don't want to like expand because America, that's just how we are. We're Americans. And if someone asks how we're doing, we're like, good. And we're like, when everything's a dumpster fire. But yeah, so it's as good as it could be with the world being a shit show. How about you?
I would say the same. My wife and I didn't get in an argument exactly, but we definitely had, a talk last night because I've been feeling more, I guess, nihilistic about everything that's going on. And so my wife's like, you have to find positives. If all you do is focus on the negative, and obviously the negative is there, you can't ignore that. But if all you do is focus on the negative, it kind of makes it like, why even try? So I'm trying to have a more positive outlook on everything that's happening. So hopefully that helps my head get in a better headspace.
Right. I don't know if there's a way to have like a positive mindset with like things that are happening, but there's other things you could look at and be like, at least I have this.
Yeah. At least I'm breathing.
Yeah.
Positive.
Sometimes depending on the day. Yeah. But totally. I think it's just about trying to focus on your little bubble, logging off the internet for a second and just pretending nothing else exists besides what is directly in front of you. I feel like that's the only way I've been able to get my brain to just kind of stop thinking about everything. But it's definitely not easy. It's getting, I feel like stronger and just worse by the day. It's hard to ignore. And, we'll get into those reasons of why pretty soon. But I think everyone's on the struggle bus. Like, I feel like every one of my clients last week when they did their check-ins, I always ask, like, how you doing mentally, emotionally, and stuff like that. And everyone is just, I need to stop watching the news, or I need to stop doom scrolling and stuff. Yeah, same. But
it's definitely hard because, there has to be a balance, because obviously, like, if all we're reading is negative after negative after negative, yeah, that's going to affect. I mean, it definitely affects me. Like, I've noticed that I'm like stress eating more and gaining weight just because, like, that's the only thing I can do. That's the only thing I feel like I can control at this moment, which is not great. But, I think also you can't just turn your eye also to what's going on and not be informed. So it's hard finding that balance of being aware of what's going on and, if you need to do something or not do something, but being aware, but also not being overburdened and in the quicksand of doom.
Yeah. Definitely. Or else it just makes life exponentially harder. I think the weirdest thing or the hardest thing for me, when I was talking to Des and like my brother and stuff about this, is that it's so weird to feel like, America is kind of slipping into this, dictatorship or like fascism and stuff. And we just, we can't stop doing our day to day because we still have bills to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just like waking up and doing the same things we were doing or would be doing if nothing was happening, but also having to, try to still not get distracted and do all the things we need to do. And it's just a really weird feeling. It almost feels, I don't know. It's just like you feel like you should be doing something else, something more, but you can't because you got to pay your bills and it's confusing.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had this before, so I can't, really comment on it. But like mindset, I would say it's like almost similar to knowing you have like a terminal illness or like, something similar. It's like, something bad's going to happen. There's really nothing you can control. but you still have to work every day. You still have to, take care of your kids. You still have to, whatever, or just knowing that like something dreadful is there or coming around the corner. Obviously, we don't know, anything could happen. There could be, a Hail Mary, pass at the last effort and, everything goes back to normal or at least slightly better. We don't know. But yeah, it's that mentality of like, I feel like something really bad is going to happen or we're going in that direction. Can't do anything about it, but I still have to go to work. I still have to do, I still got to take care of my dogs. I still have to, whatever. I still have to pay taxes, which is stupid because, why are we paying taxes for a government that literally doesn't want us to exist? I feel like we should be tax exempt.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, what happens if, half the country stops paying taxes?
Can we start our own trans church and then make ourselves tax exempt?
Probably, but then we'd probably be also classified as like a terrorist organization because we can't organize. Apparently, like organized trans people are, terrorists, and so we might get arrested for that.
So many loopholes.
Yeah, but maybe we can try that if it gets bad enough. But yeah, should we jump into some of our topics that we'll be covering today?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I guess we could start with, wow, I was pulling up the wrong outline. I was like, what? We already talked. What is it? So do we want to talk about the most obvious thing that, happened most recently, which would be the government shutdown situation? I feel like that ties into many other little things. Do you want me to go over it?
Yeah, take it away.
All right. So the feds, which you probably already know if you live in the US, I don't know how you could not know about this, but so the feds shut down at 12:01 a.m. Eastern on October 1st after Congress tanked the 12 spending bills. No deal on the stopgap funding bill. It's the first shutdown of Trump's second term, although not his first shutdown. And as of today, another resolution, House GOP pushed a short-term CR continuing resolutions to November 15th, but Dems blocked it over Trump's writers for border wall cash and cuts to quote-unquote woke programs. And I saw AOC talking about this. Some interviewer was asking her, like, why didn't you just vote to extend, until November? And then you could, talk about, and she's just like, because we'll just be doing this again, it's not going to do much, and she wants to like get this resolved now. But yeah, so the real reasons behind the shutdown, this is the thing that has been the most infuriating, is seeing the Republicans lie about the reasoning behind the shutdowns. They've literally got every conservative influencer just repeating over and over again multiple times a day, especially on X, of how the Democrats shut down the government because they want health care for illegals. And that's the part that just drives me honestly insane because it's just such a blatant lie. But yeah, so it's essentially, so Trump's using it as leverage for an $8 billion in slashes to transit and green energy in blue states, NY, California, plus $10 billion more for the wall. So Dems call it revenge politics against sanctuary cities. GOP says it's fiscal sanity against radical spending, but it's theater. Trump's team prepped for this months ago, per BBC leaks, to force concessions in midterms. No debt ceiling crisis yet, but that's assuming if it drags. So basically, the reason Democrats are, not wanting to just continue things on and, sign the budget bill or whatever is because this directly affects many, many Americans, and they're trying to pass it off as they want healthcare for illegals, but what it actually is not continuing on like the benefits for people who are ACA, so the Affordable Care Act. So it's basically going to raise insurance premiums exponentially if they do not renew, I forget, some Affordable Care Act bill or whatever, and it expires in 2026. So next year, it's going to raise healthcare prices. So that's going to leave people who like can't afford it or just, paying more, or people are going to lose coverage and stuff like that. And so Democrats really don't want that to happen. And they're trying to hold the line. They're trying to stay strong. They purchase insurance, subsidized insurance. So that will directly affect me. My insurance premiums will go up, and I'm already paying nearly $6 a month It's like 587 to be exact. And I cannot afford to pay more than that. Like, that's already ridiculous because my insurance plan doesn't even cover everything. I still have a 20% copay. I have like a $7,000 out of pocket max, and I'm paying almost $600 a month. That is insane. And yeah, so them saying that it's because Democrats want healthcare for illegals is just so fucking fucked up. It pisses me off. And it sucks that some are, but they think that their base is just too dumb to think otherwise. And that's why they're just constantly putting out that, it's a Democrat shutdown and it's their fault. They want healthcare for illegals. This is why the government is shut down. But, unfortunately, a lot of their base does depend on the ACA and other things. And they're gonna find out that it's gonna directly affect them. And yeah, so I have seen some MAGA people be starting to get upset with things. That's only one of the reasons why. But yeah, it's just all a lie, all a sad lie.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's that push of Democrats are trying to give illegal immigrants healthcare. The ACA doesn't do that. They don't qualify for that. That it would only qualify as if you are someone who has asylum and who or is in the country legally, seeking, then you would qualify. So it's just like they just don't want people to have insurance, and they want to hurt anyone who's foreign, who's living here legally. They want to hurt lower income people because then they have more control. But yeah, it sucks. Like you said, your premium is almost $600. They're talking about like what the big beautiful bill is going to do is going to cause people's premiums to double, if not triple. Paying a monthly rent amount just to have insurance in this day and age when people are living paycheck to paycheck. Our homeless population is higher than ever because people just can't afford to live. We're seeing grocery prices spiking. It's just absolutely insane. And I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, but to justify taking away the ability for people to have health coverage is just insane. And I don't know how any Republican can, look someone in the eye and say that that's a good idea. I mean, I don't care where you're from, what you do. Your child should be able to get seen by a doctor. You should be able to be seen by a doctor. And unfortunately, we don't live in a country where we have free healthcare, and so the fact that this is just, obviously we live in a capitalist country, it's all about making money. Unfortunately, it's more about making money than caring about your citizens. And, they're estimating something like, it was something like 84,000 or something like that people are going to die just because they're losing health coverage, and that's just insane to me. I don't know. I just feel like any country that just doesn't care about their citizens, like, isn't going to be a fruitful country anyway, because if we're all dying, if we all can't, do shit because we all have, diabetes because, we've been fed processed foods because that's all we can eat, it's just insane.
Yeah. 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 It's just, I don't understand what the obsession is for Republicans with taking away healthcare for people. Like, it's always about healthcare. It's always the Republicans wanting to make it more expensive, wanting to take it away. And I just don't understand. Like, they want to, budget and cut money, and because they care about the America's debt and stuff. I'm like, can you think of anything else that you could cut? Anything. Because healthcare is fucking important.
It's fucking build a wall thing. Like, we don't need another wall. Like, that's fucking ridiculous, And I think it's just that mindset of like, obviously not all politicians make a lot of money, but most of these politicians make a lot of money. They have insider trading. Like, you look at Nancy Pelosi is worth millions of dollars, It's like they can afford insurance. Trump can afford insurance. Also, they work for the government, so they get insurance, like, whatever.
And they're so rich, they don't even need insurance.
They don't need it. Like, it doesn't matter. But like, it's that mindset of like just not being aware of what your constituents go through, and the fact that like a lot of jobs now don't necessarily offer insurance, or they offer insurance at still the same, like it might be a discounted rate. So, for my previous job, when I moved to Miami, like just to cover me and my wife, it was like almost $1,000 a month. And that was with a discount from my job. That wasn't through ACA. Like that's just insane. Like people can't afford that. And we're going to have a lot of people that are going to have to choose between paying for rent and paying for insurance. And unfortunately, rent is going to have to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen a few conservative voices basically being like, Democrats are what made, insurance cost so much in the first place, the ACA, and how, we used to get insurance through our employers and now it's so much more expensive. And it's just like, but not every employer offers insurance. And we're supposed to be, able to live the American dream, work for ourselves, entrepreneurs, small businesses, but you can't do that and have health insurance unless you want to pay a bazillion dollars. And that's why like the ACA was such a lifesaver, because I was able to afford my own insurance and not have to just stay at a job that I didn't want to be at. So it just seems like we're just continually going backwards, and it's not fun.
And I believe businesses either 25 and under or 50 and under of employees don't have to offer insurance.
That's right. Yeah.
It's something like that. So a lot of these smaller businesses, they're also hurting. We're in an economic decline. So like the business has to pay for the insurance plans, basically, if they're offering it to. So a lot of these places, if they don't meet that threshold, if they're under that thing, they're not going to offer because they just can't. They're trying to get by too. Everyone is trying to take care of themselves right now.
Yeah. And which is actually most restaurants. So there's so many, like my previous working at a restaurant, I did not have insurance. It wasn't a thing. I did get insurance when I worked for the co-op, and luckily I was very grateful for that insurance. It was a great plan. I stayed there for as long as I did because of that, which is shitty. Like you can't leave a job because you rely on the insurance. And it's just, I don't know. It just makes me so mad. Just the more I think about it, and they just don't know because they're rich. They're all rich. They're so disconnected from the actual like average American or middle America and middle class. And I know a lot of MAGA people who don't understand this yet are about to find out. And I'm not saying that in a fuck around and find out way. They don't know. They're in a cult, and I actually kind of feel bad for them because they're about to have a rude awakening. And yeah, it sucks to be lied to, and there's nothing we could do about it. And even on every government website after the shutdown, it literally said at shutdown, government has been shut down due to radical leftists or Democrats wanting healthcare for illegals. And I'm pretty sure that is something that goes against something called the Hatch Act, because, the government it's not supposed to be partisan. Like they're supposed, like at least websites and stuff like that. But there's so many things going on right now that we're like, is that legal? And most of the time it's like, no, it's not. But Trump's not caring. He's just doing things anyways.
I mean, even if it's legal or not, it's not right. And like, there's just no moral. Lupin, there's just no moral. My wife just drove off, so my dog's looking out the window. There's no moral high ground anymore. It's horrible. Like even like you said, the banners on the government website, showing that the government's shut down due to Democrats. It's not even that. They've taken it a step further to where like government employees, their out of office messages are, I'm sorry, I can't respond to you right now because of Democrats. I'm furloughed. Like, and those employees are like responding, being like, we didn't put that. That's something that the administration set. So it's not, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like there's no, I don't know. Like I feel like every other presidency that we've had has been, at least trying to bring together Republicans and Democrats, right? There's been trying to be like a middle ground, and that's just not there anymore. It's all Republicans. It's not even all Republicans. It's all MAGA, because if any Republicans say anything, they're also, disavowed. Like, it's any Democrats are the enemy now. And like, that's not what our country is about.
No, because we all live in the same country and we're all on the same ship. So if it sinks, we're all sinking. I guess unless you're a straight white cis man. And I hate just saying that because like there's the whole like, oh, the Democrats are losing because they keep demonizing straight white men or whatever. And it's just like, well, it's really hard not to say that when the only people benefiting from this is straight white men. They want to keep that power. And that is what is happening right now. And unfortunately, it fucks over everyone else because we can't share, apparently. We can't have nice things. So that's fun. But
yeah, and this is what Trump wants. Like, he's stated it. Like, he wants this to be a government shutdown because he wants to declare martial law. He wants to just start stripping, like he's got what Russ Vought or whatever his name is, who's basically like the main writer of Project 25, which Trump apparently knew nothing about, but he hires everyone from the project. Like it's I don't know. I'm scared. We'll talk about it. I think that's one of our other topics is, the continuing ICE raids and stuff. But like seeing what's happening, like you're seeing, ICE agents now just arresting black people, just because they're black. I saw
mostly Mexicans, really.
It's mostly Mexicans, but it's like, their whole excuse was, well, we think they're illegal immigrants, and it's just getting so bad. I just watched a video the other day of this woman retelling how ICE agents, I think this was in Chicago, but ICE agents raided an apartment building and pulled out, like zip tied and pulled out children, some of them naked, into the street and basically like detained them and used them as like, it's just so disgusting. And I don't know how anyone can justify that treatment.
Yeah,
like,
me either.
I don't know how anyone, like, I dare anyone to look me in the eye and tell me why that was a good idea, because that's just absolutely disgusting behavior.
The sad part is there's plenty of people willing to do that. And they will literally post a photo of, I think I saw, it was probably like a 3 or 4 year old. And they had him with his arms behind his back with a zip tie. This little child, like what is this kid going to do to you? Why do you have to zip tie this child? It's already traumatized from you barging in and just taking people. But also like Republicans will literally repost that shit and say, I voted for this. And it's just like, you are the most heartless fucking assholes. If anything, we should be deporting these assholes because they don't care about anybody but themselves. And it's very sad. And it's really sad to see our country going this way, So, and I will say my anxiety spiked up exponentially. So on the day, or it was like the day after the government, or it was the day of, Trump put out on his social and it said, I have a meeting today with Russ Vote, whatever. I know you just talked about this. I just wanted to read his tweet specifically. He of Project 2025 fame to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They're not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. President DJT. So all this time when he denied he knew what Project 2025 was, which, it's at 48% completion now. We kind of knew that was a lie anyways, but I think when I saw this, I was just like, there's no denying it now. And it's scary because if, you look into what Project 2025 is and how it's all gonna take place and work, it is not good, especially for minorities, LGBT specifically. And we are moving in that direction and it's speeding up now that the government has shut down. And, like we said here, where it said like the BBC leaked that this was something that they were like planning for and hoping for it to happen, which makes me even more mad because they're blaming it on the Democrats, but yet they are actually happy about it because now they can implement their plan even more. And it's just like, what do we do here? How long can we keep the government shut down? I don't think they're going to budge at all whatsoever. They don't care. They don't care. Because all the rich people are going to be perfectly fine,
Mhm.
and we're all the ones that are going to struggle. But how long is this going to last?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and big picture aside, like even the smaller things like this government shutdown, I fly a lot for work. And it's really terrifying knowing that like we have a bunch of TSA agents and flight controllers that aren't getting paid to work, and we don't know if they're going to come into work, and honestly, like, I mean, I think if I was in their position, I probably would still go into work just because like I wouldn't want something bad to happen, but they are completely justified if they don't want to do that, so it's terrifying for me. I have to fly in like 2 weeks, so we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's just scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, granted, they'll get back pay, so they know
Yeah.
that they're still showing up to get paid. But who knows? You know, People can't live like it. They could get probably by with a couple weeks or so, and then you start wondering, how am I going to pay for rent and groceries and bills? And so it's going to cause some issues. There's no way around it. But the thing is, like, I wish Democrats could give us a little bit of a plan or a breakdown of like, this is what we want to do, this is what we anticipate. There just doesn't seem to be much of a leader on the left. There's Gavin Newsom, who's like stepped up the most, but Gavin Newsom is Gavin Newsom. I'm just gonna
Well, and
always
also
be skeptical of him.
isn't he also up for re-election right now too? So like I mean,
No,
like, no?
he no, he'll be done. So he's gonna be we're gonna be voting on a new governor.
Okay.
So that's scary as fuck
Yeah.
because I saw something about Stephen Miller wanting to do something about voter ID in the state of California so that, California can be turned red. And I'm not staying here if that happens, just 100%. I'll have to move to a blue state or out of the country because, yeah, not going to happen. So I don't know who our next governor is going to be. That's kind of scary to think about because there are a lot of Republicans in California. People don't really tend to know that or think about that, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
But Newsom will be running for president. I have no doubt about that. But that's why he's doing what he's doing. He's a typical politician. I just don't trust him. There's just
Yeah.
vibes. Will I vote for him? Yeah, because I have to, not because I want to. I feel like that's
Yeah.
been the thing for Democrats since Obama. It's been like voting for someone because you have to vote for them, not because you're excited about them, that you think they're a great candidate, that they think they actually care about the American people. I don't know who is gonna, come into as leader in the Democrat Party that we're gonna feel stoked about again. Unfortunately, we fucked up with Bernie, and it's going to be a while. I think there's a lot of younger, like, Democrats that should potentially come up and do well, who I'd be excited to vote in, but no one right now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, like it just voting to get by, like, with Gavin Newsom, he's not someone who's going to really push the boundaries. He's not going to push us in a better way necessarily, but he's someone who might at least calm the waters and make things in, a normal playing field again. But I think going back to what you said, about, the Democrats and not knowing what their plan is, like I feel like the Democrats are still playing like it's normal rules, and it's not.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know what that right play would be, because, if you play at the same rules that they're playing,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Newsom has done, I think recently he threatened basically like schools that bend the knee to Trump that he will cut state funding. So it's almost like he's going the Trump route there, but I'm just kind of like, you don't know what to do. And, shit just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And I know MAGA would not be happy if Newsom was president. There would probably be a lot of shit, maybe still feeling like a civil war. But the only difference is that I don't believe Newsom would do things to harm the American people for revenge or, his ego or whatever. I think he still, would run things in a way that Democrats usually do without the whole, like, he's obviously Democrats are not going to be the ones sending ICE and the National Guard out to states to deport people. So, but I don't think would specifically go for Republican voters like Trump is doing. I think that's the thing that is probably the biggest difference. Like, even if he's a skeezy politician who's very out of touch with the average American still, at least he is not retaliatory. And
Yeah.
Trump's whole presidency has been about revenge and retaliation, and it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, on that note, should we move on to the military meeting that was held in Virginia?
Yeah, that was quite a thing to watch. I saw some clips of it and it was interesting.
Yeah.
So basically, Trump and Pete Hegseth had a meeting with, let's see, the big one was September 30th at Marine Corps Base in Quantico with a global summit of 300 plus top brass from all branches. And it was for the Navy's 25th anniversary. But Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth rallied admirals and generals, with Hegseth slamming fat woke leaders for softness, from the guy who can't do a real pull-up. And Hegseth ordered the fly-in pre-shutdown as a come-to-Jesus flex and per Fox, and cost taxpayers $5 million amid furloughs. I mean, it's horrifying, but it's so horrifying it's funny. Watching Pete Hegseth walk around and like body shaming the nation's like top generals, like talking about how he's so sick of seeing fat generals walking through the White House. Like, dude, what the fuck have you done?
He's an alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic. He literally has like shots of bourbon while he's doing press conferences. He's talking about like Trump as if Trump is the epitome of fitness. Like, he's got fucking like McDonald's sweating out of his pores every time he takes a step, so it's just absolutely ridiculous. And then his whole, basically talking down to women in the military who could do more things than he can do. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, I think he probably did the reverse of what he was hoping to do. Like, if you watch that whole presentation, and he's looking at the camera as he's like saying certain lines, and he's ready for like the generals to like clap and applaud him, and it's just fucking silent. Like, you can hear a pen drop, and like even when Trump gets up and like Trump's like, this is the most silent room I've ever been in. And like, he's like, you guys can clap, and like nothing, just silent. Right. And you watch, I saw some videos of other military people who are like watching the videos and then giving their feedback, and they're like, that's a sign of like silent protest. Like, they're not happy about this. So, I mean, obviously, like, I'd like to think that, our top military knows, what they did an oath for. They know that, telling any military that they need to go into U.S. cities and use them as training grounds is absolutely ridiculous. But we're also we're seeing with this administration where they're just putting whoever agrees with them in these positions. I forgot what position it was, but it was something with like defense or something, where they put like this 22-year-old super MAGA kid in charge who has no experience. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of these generals or high ups, that don't agree, they just cut them out and fill them with the crazy MAGA, people. But yeah, it was, I think, probably one of the biggest embarrassments on our country, that summit. Any leaders watching that, any military watching that, like, I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah. And I know, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So he also, he warned of like the enemies at home, and as you mentioned, using U.S. cities as training grounds, and that is insane. I don't know how anyone on the other side sees that doesn't see it as a problem, except for the fact that they're MAGA and they hate Democrats. And it's just like, Democrats are not your enemy, probably more like have the same struggles than you know, but we've got this administration dividing us further, calling for civil war, like painting the Democrats as this enemy. And this is exactly what they want. They want a civil war. Trump wants a reason to declare martial law. He's so close right now, and it's just it's honestly terrifying. And yeah, I know there's definitely probably some people that were sitting in there just like, what the fuck. But yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Trump puts people in charge. Like he basically grades them on loyalty versus experience. And that's why we have the administration that we do. He does not care about your previous experience. He just wants to know that you'll be loyal to him no matter what. And that is all that matters. I mean, we have a podcaster in charge of, the
FBI.
the FBI, and now, the Secretary of War or whatever. So it's just like, make it make sense. But yeah. So speaking of which, should we go into Trump sending the National Guard into Portland and Chicago and all that stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, speaking of fighting the enemies within or at home, as Trump, decided to phrase it. So Trump authorized, like this just happened today. So originally, judge in Oregon blocked sending the Oregon National Guard to Portland. And also, not only blocked that, but made a statement saying that like this was not okay, that you're slipping into martial law here. And unfortunately, so Trump decided to send 300 California National Guard to Portland. So instead of from Oregon, he decided to send California National Guard. This is how, there's no way that this is legal. There just isn't. And he's just doing it anyways. It's like no one can stop him or control him. I don't know at what point, like, how does the National Guard not just be like, no?
Mhm.
I don't know. But so Trump authorized 300 California National Guard to Portland and for riot control amid immigration protests. But a federal judge, Karen Immergut, just slapped a temporary block as unconstitutional. I believe she did that before. So that might be a little wrong information. She blocked it and then he decided to send to California. So separately, 500 troops to Chicago for crime sweeps post a September 28th protest shooting. Mayor Johnson called it an invasion, with locals rallying no troops. So let's see. I guess it says Hegseth teased this at Norfolk today using Guard for homeless sweeps into forced treatment camps. Oh yeah, I did see that. Expanding a July executive order to criminalize vagrancy nationwide. ACLU calls it eugenics light. Some Dems like Newsom nod to mental health fixes, but it's dystopian ties, Guard to clean up, So basically, this is martial law light, is what we're experiencing. So he's testing how much blue cities bend. So troops aren't for safety, they're for control. So yeah, it's just, I feel like any day now, it's just going to be martial law and we're fucked. So
yeah, I did see videos of actual Chicago police getting maced by ICE. So like it's not good. I would say the one good thing is, Chicago police did stand up to Kristi Noem and refused to let her use their bathroom.
I saw that.
So, that's my positive for the day. Kristi Noem wasn't allowed to poop. So,
I don't think she eats enough to poop. So,
it's all that gender affirming care on her face. They just don't know what bathroom she can use.
They're like, sorry, we don't recognize you as human anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we got the video, the kids that got pulled out of, the apartment complex. It's just really disgusting. Nothing good's going to come out of this, obviously. And it's just, it feels like we're in a third world country. It feels like what we're seeing in our own country is stuff that we've seen in like other countries where we're like, that's just so inhuman, and that would never happen here. And like, I'm so glad that we live in a place that like we feel so safe. And it's like, no, it's here now, and it's crazy like how fast a shift like that can happen. I honestly never thought that in America we would have this. I just felt like I don't want to say better than, because I don't think that, but I felt like we had a good enough democracy and system lined out that we were protected from things like this, and we're not. So yeah, I think it's ugly. It's just going to get uglier. And I mean, we're already, from the what was it, the alligator Alcatraz. I think people are saying it's something like 2/3 of the people are still missing. Like, so we don't know when, what's happening to all these people. We don't know what happened to, in DC, all the homeless people that they took away. It's scary. There's no transparency, and people are getting lost. And it's just, like I've said before, it's right now it's illegal immigrants, or anyone who looks like they're an immigrant. Next it's going to be trans people, and then it's going to be gay people, and then bi people. It's just a really fast slope we're going down.
Yeah, especially, which kind of takes us into the next topic or whatever. It's the NSPM-7. I don't know if you've, this came out on the 25th, and it's interesting because it was not talked about in the media at all. I just happened to come across it. I don't even remember how, but it's frightening because, so this is a memo that's targeting anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, etc. And it's, a memo that's labeled like countering domestic terrorism, and it's a blueprint. So, they want to, so on U.S. dissent labels anti-Christian bias, anti-capitalist extremism, woke ideologies, and anti-American views as threats for FBI watch list. White House fact sheet calls it a new strategy post Kirk, but it's vague enough to snag activists, nonprofits, or churches, but not aligned with Trump. So it's basically stating if you disagree with Trump, you're on a watch list, which is fucked. I definitely am probably included. Yeah, it's definitely made me like more nervous about things that I repost or things like that. Could we be seen as could I be seen as anti-Christian? Because I definitely talk about religious trauma and shit a lot. And it's just like, I'm not anti-Christian. I'm anti-MAGA Christian. I'm anti-evangelical Christian or fundamentalist Christian, because I'm anti-Christian nationalism, because fuck that shit. Like, go believe what you want to believe, but you're forcing it on people. That's what I'm against,
And it's so vague. Like, when they say anti-Christian, when we think about it, we think, okay, it's someone who is, saying anti-Christian rhetoric or whatever. But in all reality, they could bend it and use it as like anyone who follows anti-Christian beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
As a trans person, we could be considered anti-Christian just because we, go against what the Bible said, or whatever their interpretation is. Like, it's a very scary situation.
Yeah, for sure. And like anti-capitalism, there's plenty I could say about capitalism, at least the way that we do it here in America, where we just have a bunch of people hoarding all the wealth. There's no trickle-down economy. That doesn't fucking exist. People are just like, how much more rich can I get, even though I can't spend it in my lifetime? It's crazy. We have people homeless. We have people barely making it, and we have people literally hoarding wealth. They're not using it to make things better. They're just using it for their own good. Whatever they're doing, I don't fucking know. Like Elon, like meddling in elections, and being, or if we're pushing the whole anti-woke thing, and they're declaring war on wokeism, which means war on trans people. And it's stupid because I just don't think that being trans or like holding certain values makes you woke. It just makes you a human and makes you empathetic. And apparently empathy is wokeness. So if that's what being woke is, then sure, I guess I'm woke. But at the same time, it's just ridiculous that they can't like any little ounce of empathy or what they just see as being woke. And like, how many narcissists make up the Republican Party? We got the one in charge for sure. So yeah. So other like key details. So a DOG, FBI to probe organized political violence, hits BLM, climate groups. Oh, it also affects their funding. So even FFRF for anti-Christian critiques, ACLU or on opponents, doubles FBI's domestic list in months. Reuters ties it to shutdown, used furloughs to defund extremists. WSWS calls it McCarthyism or redux. So it's also is an issue with speech. Like it impacts freedom of speech because you're not allowed to say things and you could be put on a watch list for it and be considered a terrorist. And so how, yeah, like who's safe anymore? I don't even know. It's very blurry and very vague and it's terrifying and nobody's talking about it because now the media is scared because Trump's just suing everybody. Or canceling comedians and etc. So it's a shit show. It's a dumpster fire.
Yep.
So hopefully more people will be talking about this. I know there is one journalist. His name is Ken. I subscribe to his Substack because he does a good job. But let me get his name if anyone wants to follow him. Ken, he's got quite a name. Ken Klippenstein. It's funny, he put in parentheses around his username. It says NSPM7 compliant. But yeah, he's been trying to like sound the alarm to get the media actually talking about this because no one is. But he's been putting out a lot of good stuff on X about it. And he's been putting a lot of good stuff on Substack about it. So that is something or someone to look into and follow. Sorry, I had to like make sure I was looking at the right thing. He has got so many tweets. I was like getting distracted by like, oh, I should read this one. I was like, wait, hold on. Let's not just get distracted. So yeah, any
just active doom scrolling, right?
I know. We'll just that's what the podcast is gonna be now.
Yeah.
We're just gonna live doom scroll in front of everybody, and then just talk about it and be like, what the fuck? This just happened. And we'll just like troll live. Just kidding.
Just watch our faces get more depressed and more depressed throughout the
Right.
hour.
And we're like, all right, we should probably stop now. I was like 8 hours later. So yeah, do you want to take the next and final topic for the day?
Yeah, so basically updates on the Charlie Kirk shooter. Tyler Robinson faces aggravated murder and hate crime charges after the September 10th sniper shot. His arraignment was October 3rd and it added enhancements for bias motivation. Text to partner show obsession with Kirk's rants, but no plot. FBI is meticulous per CNN. Ongoing theories by QAnon and InfoWars, they push a deep state script, which was debunked by the New York Times, calling it a comforting fiction for lefties. Al Jazeera, text fuels staged claims across aisles, but PBS traces engravings to Discord radicals, anti-fascist, and not trans. Again, not trans. Vox shows liberals wrongly pinned it far right early. Now it's endless echo chamber per NPR. Fox notes prosecution gaps and timeline issues. We've both talked about the Candace Owens, who has been like very avid that she, doesn't think that he was the shooter or whatever. I mean, not that, Candace Owens should really be the go-to for anything, but it is funny when you see, someone else who is like very pro, MAGA, very, like kind of pointing stuff out. So yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know the truth of what happened. We may never know. Is it a cover up? Is it something that really happened? We don't know, but it's, I think first and foremost, it's really important that, that no one jump to conclusions ever in situations like this, right? We saw that with the Republicans within minutes, hours of his death. It was obviously a trans person shot him, and that was not true. So be able to take a step back and look at the evidence and, be logical about the situation. And, I don't know if the whole, partner being trans has been confirmed or if that's still up in the air. I'm not sure because I just kind of, stopped really following it because it's just insane.
Yeah.
But, even if it's true, it's like it doesn't mean that his motivations was because his partner was trans. There's so many things, and until this person talks and admits to what he did and why he did it, we're probably never going to know. Yeah, it sucks. I've said it before, I don't think, violence is ever the right way, and I think it's just, if you're a conspiracy theorist, it's a good conspiracy, that would be a great way to have a martyr and, aggravate, the right a little bit more to be more aggressive towards the left, especially towards the trans community. So, and if that was his reason for doing it, for anyone, for our millions of listeners out there, PSA, violence is not the answer, and it's only going to cause more issues. So before we do any reacting for anyone, right, left, white, black, brown, we just have to, we have to stop and think about what the repercussions are. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think it really fucked things up more. If you, like, let's say the narrative is true that the FBI is putting out there. Like, I very, very much so would be angry at Tyler Robinson and be like, you fucking asshole. Like, you did not just assassinate someone, but you made it exponentially worse for the LGBT community, for anyone who is different in general and who doesn't vote Republican. So that backfired tremendously. So you killed off one guy just to piss off millions of others that are the same, that hold the same views. They're probably the same person. They just aren't on college campuses debating people on YouTube, So that's unfortunate. But as far as like how we for I don't know. The right's always going to blame the left, no matter what happens. As we can see with the shutdown, they don't give a fuck. Like, they'll just lie. So I don't know how Democrats can move forward, what we're going to do. I know we had our heart set on midterms and winning back the House, etc. But Trump is definitely trying his darndest to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's the real scary part, too. So it just feels like, on one hand, no, violence is definitely not the answer. But on the other hand, like, Trump's not playing by the rules. And we're not going to get anywhere playing by the rules either. So what do we do? And also, why the fuck does the 25th Amendment exist if we never use it? How bad does a president have to be in order to enact that and actually remove a president? Because I feel like we should at least be close. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, all I have to say is just, shame on all the Republicans who, especially those middle of the aisle Republicans who aren't standing up to this. Obviously we have our really far right Republicans that are going to do whatever Trump says, but we do have Republicans in the House, in the Senate, that have been known to be more bipartisan, and for how far things are going, to not be using your platform to stand up and say, no, this is right, this is not right, this is going too far, is wrong. And I feel like, best case scenario, right, is that something happens down the line, whether it's, he gets impeached or we have a fair election and, things change. Even if that happens, I think a lot of people are going to look back at these Republicans and be like, you really fucked up. You went too far. And I think there's also going to be people looking at Democrats and being like, you didn't do enough. But unfortunately, we're in that situation where we don't know what's going to happen. And again, very scary. Hard to see things progress the way it's progressing and not have hope. I think that's where I'm at, is I don't have hope for the future right now. And again, that's why my wife was like, you need to start looking at positives. But it's hard, it's hard especially being a trans person, to be like, you know, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to exist next year. You know, I'm scared. I'm seeing, you know, people being arrested and disappearing for doing things the right way. I'm seeing, you know, senators or politicians that are Democrats being arrested for trying to get answers, you know, and it's scary. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, just doesn't know how far that tunnel is going to be. You know, there are a lot of worse things happening in the world right now. And I think that's probably where I have to focus on is like, yeah, things are bad. Things are getting bad. But, you know, I look at Palestinians right now and the fact that they are getting bombed day after day. We're seeing like children being bloody in the streets, being shot down. And in those moments, like, you have to be thankful for the fact that, like, at least right now we're safe. You know, at least right now we're not in that situation, you know, and there are people that are trying to help that just, it's not helping yet. You know, we look at the flotilla that just got taken down by Israel, you know, Greta Thunberg, who's, you know, I believe still in captivity. I don't think she's been released yet, but people like that are out there trying to help others. And I know that there are people out there that are trying to help us. So Godspeed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be too depressed all the time. You know, it sucks, but I also don't want to be ignorant to what's going on. So for anyone out there who is feeling the same way that I'm feeling and is, you know, trying hard to, you know, see what's the point is that, you know, there are people out there that care. There are people that love us no matter what you are, who you love. There is community out there and there are things to keep pushing for. And we just got to keep focusing on what those things are.
Yeah. 100%. It's like, stick to your values. You know who you are, you know who your people are, you know, just focus on your community or growing your own community. Just trying to get through what is currently happening until you know what we need to do next. Cause I don't think anyone knows what we really need to do next. We're just kind of hoping for survival. But yeah, so should we move on to some a little lighter, like what we've been watching, or
yeah, let's jump right into that. I'm watching the Ed Gein story. Because
that's not lighter. That is fucked up shit. But hey, maybe it makes you feel like it's a little less, you know,
at least someone's not making a lampshade out of my body, you know. Positives. Looking for the positives.
Like, I woke up today, not a lampshade. I'm good.
Hey, you know, no, we did start that, and it's quite horrifying. I think we only watched one episode, but it was good so far. You know, our normal palate cleanser is still King of the Hill. We're getting through that, and that's kind of like the only thing making me laugh at this moment. Let's see, what else are we watching? We've been rewatching the first season of Interview with a Vampire. If you like vampire stuff, that is a really good quality show. I think they did an amazing job of it. The second season is particularly amazing. Oh, what else have we watched? Oh, Supernatural. We've gotten back into. We previously binge watched a bunch of Supernatural, and we stopped. I think the beginning of the 8th season. We took a break for quite a while, like almost a year. So we jumped back into that because it's kind of that season. So I always recommend Supernatural. It's such a great show. That's about it. I think doom scrolling wise, I'm getting a lot of, you know, the shit that we talk about. So, you know, that's always fun. It's usually either that or for some random reason, Sister Wives updates. Because apparently my algorithm needs me to see, you know, what's happening with the Sister Wives, even though I've never watched a show.
So weird.
Yeah, that, and there's this, I think I'm editing this episode, so I'll put the video up, but there's this lady who has this song called Night Owl, and that song is now stuck in my head. I'll send it to you, so it'll be stuck in your head.
Just like the owl comes out at night, my coochie comes out late at night. Just like the owl comes out at night, my coochie comes out late at night. Night owl, night
It is quite something. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. How about you? What have you been watching?
I've still been kind of going through the seasons of Top Chef. It's weird because Netflix has seasons like 10, 12, and 16. So we finished 10. We thought we were going to go to like 11, and then it just went straight to 12 and then 16. And then so you have to go to Amazon and they charge you $24.99 for a season. I was like, now I'm like, do I pay the money or do I just, I don't know. Cause yeah, it's a
In
nice
this
like
economy,
show to, I know, right? I'm just like, that's a lot. $24. Usually it's like 12.99 for a season or 18 at the most.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but still watching what we can for free. I think we're watching season 16 and it's in Kentucky and it's nice because, it's not talking about politics and food. I feel like is that one thing that just connects people. It's a big reason why I got into cooking in the first place. And so it's just kind of nice to revisit those roots. And then outside of that, we started watching Wayward. It's on Netflix. It's a show by Mae Martin, who's queer, non-binary, or something along those lines. But in the film specifically, they're supposed to be they play a trans man, and they move to this small town, and it goes. It's kind of creepy. It's like a cerebral kind of thriller, I guess. And it was supposed to be a limited series, but apparently they might be picking it up for another season because it did so well. It's good. It's pretty creepy. There are some things that are, as a trans person, trans man specifically myself, there's some cringe for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard at a time like this because I feel like in a normal world, like visibility would be a good thing. But I feel like when it's in this current vibe of the US, I'm almost like, I feel like we need less visibility right
Yeah.
now.
Move the spotlight somewhere else, please.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't want it. So, it kind of addresses like, I wouldn't even say some of the struggles of being a trans person, maybe kind of, but some of it's just definitely cringy. But if you ignore that part of it, it's a good show. I think it's got a good like storyline to it. And, not everyone will find it cringy. I just think it's one of those things where it's like some of it's inaccurate. I think that's the part that I found cringy. Like at one point, his like watch alarm was going off, and that guy his partner's like cop partner was like, that goes off at the same time every day. He's like, oh yeah, it's just my reminder to do my shot. And it's like, first of all, like, can you just not insert that in there? Like that's fucking weird. Second, like it's inaccurate. You don't take your shot every day. So I'm just like, and I feel like they have these weird, like these scenes that are so unnecessary because they're trying to like create visibility,
Mhm.
but it just doesn't fit. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like there was a sex scene that came out of nowhere. Like if you watch it, you'll know what I'm saying. But it's a good storyline. I had watched another season. I was captivated by it. So yeah, it was a good little thing to use to escape. And as far as social media goes, again, what we have talked about is all things I've been looking up in social media. I did want to bring up, it was actually put out, I feel like, I don't know, maybe like a month or maybe two ago, but there's this AI video specifically, someone retweeted or put it on Threads or something. And it's this AI video that was made, and it was basically Trump and all of his people and rich people in his ballroom, like dining and living it up and doing their thing. And then basically an angry mob, or like the American people, including all the MAGA people, they're wearing red hats, were like realizing that they were duped. And so they all went storming to the White House basically with like pitchforks and were like very angry, and they busted through the gates and like busted through the ballroom, and like Trump's administration's like, whoa, like what's happening? And it was like the American people as a whole rising up to fight against what was happening because they realized it was not left versus right, it's up versus down, rich versus poor. And so it was Americans uniting to take down the administration. And then it flashed forward to like 20 years later, and it was this lady giving a history lesson to children at a museum being like, and that is when that was the end of democracy, but now we're in the time of healing. And so it was like America healing from what we're currently going through. And it was like really powerful the way that it was made. I'll have to send it to you if I find it again. But everyone should I don't know, it gave me goosebumps to just be like, gives you a little hope that like this will end one day and we will have that moment where we're healing from everything, but it's going to be, unfortunately, probably quite some time. So yeah, that's all.
Another movie, I mean, it's probably not the best movie to watch because of the times, but also probably an important movie to watch because of the times. I believe this was a movie that came out in like, it was after 2020, I believe, but Civil War. Have you seen that?
I haven't, no.
It's starring Kristen Dunst, but it's basically like a civil war in the United States, and it follows war journalists going through the United States, and it's pretty eye-opening, to think that, I mean, knock on wood, nothing like that ever happens, but we're always close to it, right? Anything can happen. But it was interesting to kind of see that kind of landscape, that type of environment in the United States, But yeah, it was a really good movie.
Yeah, check that out. I feel like we already are in a civil war. It's just not like official, or we've like been in one for a second, but it's just escalating and escalating. And so it's just kind of like, okay, what is next? But yeah, so cool. I'll check that out. But I feel like there's something I'm missing as far as I'm watching, but I can't think of it.
Have you been watching Sister Wives?
No, I have not.
You might want to, according to my algorithm, we should all be watching.
It wants us to watch it. Like
it really wants to make fun of the husband in the situation because he's just a complete douchebag. But yeah, that's probably why it keeps showing it to me. Is it's like, watch this guy being like a complete idiot, and he thinks like he's this like alpha male. But yeah, Sister Wives. I don't think I could watch any of the old seasons, but I might be able to watch the latest season, or I just keep watching the TikToks that I get that just wrap up everything.
Yeah. I know every time we watch, like, I love 1,000-Pound Sisters, that show with, Tammy. And after it ends, it always autoplays the Sister Wives. And we're just like, we don't want to watch Sister Wives. We never do. We always turn it off. But it's like, you want to watch it. You want to watch it. I'm like, I really don't.
We haven't been watching it lately, but usually our go-to, like, trash TV that we don't really have to pay attention to and watch, or have while we're cleaning, or we want to scroll on our phones or whatever, is usually 90 Day Fiancé. That's usually our go-to, is just watching like these crazy couples in like these situations, and either you're like, wow, this is a really good love story, and like it's great to see people from different sides of the world come together, but 90% of the time it's these are like, yeah, it's a shit show. It's either someone who's obviously trying to get a green card, or that's definitely a big motivation. But on that other side, it's usually the American who's like, I just want a wife who cleans for me and cooks for me and rubs my feet, and like they don't make them over here anymore, so I gotta go over here and they just want me for a green card. Like, bitch, you just want them to fucking rub your feet and cook for you. Like,
yeah,
you're getting what you're getting.
Pretty soon they're gonna have like 90 Day Fiancé in other countries because Americans are gonna want to be getting out of the U.S.
They do. They have 90 Day Fiancé the other way, where it's like Americans going to these other countries.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna probably kick up even more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that show we watched definitely like a good amount of that show, but we got kind of bored of it because it kind of turns into the same thing over and over, and it gets like more and more scripted as the seasons go on. And it's very, very scripted. And I think I saw like rumors how like so much of it is fake, and like the couples don't even see each other.
Yeah, I want to say like the first 2 seasons were like the real seasons, especially the first season. You had like actual like genuine couples, and there was usually like one couple that was probably questionable. And now it's almost like probably there might be one good couple, but the rest are like definitely in it for like fame and TV, and it's not even about a green card or whatever. It's they want to be on TV.
Yeah.
But that's where the trash TV is good, because you're like, you don't get invested. You're just like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the fact that this. I mean, I wouldn't enjoy the fact, but I think last season or the season before there's also like 5 or 6 spin-offs, so there's like
Yeah.
6
There's so
different
much.
shows. It's hard to keep track, but I think one of these was like the other way, and like this guy goes to, I believe it was like Thailand, and his partner, who he's been seeing, is a trans woman, and he like basically tells her that he's got syphilis because he hooked up with another person right before, and he's like, it's totally fine, and also he's like homeless and doesn't have money, and like, you're gonna have to take care of me. And she's just like, what the fuck? It's just people like this where it's so insane and cringe, but you can't look away. So
Yeah. It's a train wreck, those are hard to look away from.
yeah.
Oh man. Well, I guess we could wrap this one up. But yeah, thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll make sure to come back next week with more depressing news for you. But hopefully you'll feel a little less alone by listening to us spew our uneducated opinions about it. But yeah, any last words, Calvin?
As no one has said, if you follow us, if you want to reach out, if you're having a hard time, leave us a comment. If there's something you want us to cover, just know that we are all, no matter what side you're on, where you're from, we're all humans. We're all in the same boat. We need to look out for each other. And as my wife keeps reminding me, look for a positive, because otherwise the world just seems like doom and gloom, and there are things that we can look forward to, like the stocking of the double-decker taco at Taco Bell. Thank you, Taco Bell.
But unfortunately, food safety is getting more and more sketch due to the Trump administration cuts. So be careful about your Taco Bell consumption.
That is true, but if you are going to go out, why not go out with a soft taco filled with refried beans over a crunchy taco?
Well, unfortunately, that won't make you go out. It'll just make you want to go out, because you'd be like, I want to die because my asshole is on fire and I can't stop puking. But yeah,
that is true. That is true. But
moral of the story,
it was great going in. That's
at least
what she
one
said.
way it was great. Well, hopefully no one will be inflicted with explosive diarrhea this week. The news, I feel like, is just a constant strain of explosive diarrhea, but we're doing our best to cope with it. So join us for more coping. No guarantees we're going to be coping appropriately. So that's your responsibility, but we're going to do our best. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Eat your fiber, take your Pepto-Bismol.
Yes. And take your mental health meds, take your benzos,
while we still can.
Do what you got to do. But yeah, all right, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and peace out. Bye.